In this next session, students are going to create a comic, and they're going to edit their comic to create a funny story that's going to make children, since it's for children, smile and laugh. They're going to add shapes and word art to a story and a comic, and the action comes to life. There's an example on the board that they can use and on Canvas. To prepare for this tasks, they're going to have to begin to learn how to use a wide range of commands to draw. Once you're comfortable with those skills, then you're going to apply your knowledge to your comic strip. So the first thing, we've got to learn how to draw and format some basic shapes, including a line, arrow, rectangle, oval, circle, square, text box. And it's an introduction to formatting the appearance of drawing objects, including how to change their fill color, the line weight, the dash style, and other effects. Make sure you read each one of the instructions as you go through each assignment. First, y'all need to know that shapes are preset objects like callouts, black arrows, or stars. Callout is simply what you think of as a speech bubble in a graphic novel or a comic. So you should be at the instructions for draw lines and rectangles and basic shapes. So the first thing you're going to need to do is open Microsoft Word. You go to Start, All Programs, Microsoft Office, and then Microsoft Word 2010. This should open a blank document for you. If you're already in Word, you can use the keyboard shortcut Control-N, as in New, or you can go File and then New to open a new blank document. Our first step is to insert. Go to the Insert tab and click on Shapes, and then go all the way down to New Drawing Canvas. Now we have a blank square for us to use to create our different shapes. And we're going to notice that we have a new or contextual tab called Drawing Tools Format tab. If you click the drop down arrow beneath it, the More drop down arrow, it shows you more shapes that are available to you, such as lines, rectangles, squares, ovals, and text boxes. Notice there is a circle under flowchart, but we're going to show you how to do that without clicking on that. So some of the more common shapes are used, or your recently used shapes will be at the top. But let's first click a line. Notice that your cursor becomes a cross or plus sign. So you're going to click and drag to create a line. You can use the arrow keys on your keyboard to slightly move or nudge an object in the canvas. That does take some time. You can also click and drag when it comes a four-sided cross or four-sided arrowed plus sign. You can click and drag to move your arrow. To draw them more than one object at a time, you can right-click on the line command and lock the drawing mode. This allows you to draw many lines, and you can create any shape that you want. To get out of that command, you would hit the Escape key on your keyboard. Notice how your cursor is no longer a plus sign. Now we're going to insert a line arrow. You can click the drop down and do the line arrow. You just click and drag in the direction you want your arrow to go. When you move your mouse pointer over the top of the arrow, it becomes a double-sided arrow, and then you can click and drag to move a handle. If you move it to the center of your arrow, it becomes your four-sided plus a four-way directional arrow, and you can click and drag to move your shape. Again, you can right-click on top of the command to lock the drawing mode, and go ahead and draw 3 more arrows. Just click and drag, click and drag, click and drag. Remember to turn off the drawing mode, you press the Escape key. Now to insert other shapes, such as a rectangle, you click your drop-down arrow, and you can select from the various shapes of rectangles. We're just going to click the basic shape. Then you just click and drag down, across and down, to create your shape. To draw a square, you would select your rectangle and then hold the Shift key down to click and drag to create a perfect square. You press and hold the Shift key. Now to do a circle or an oval, you click on the oval, and then you click and drag. Again, if you want it to be a perfect circle, you hold the Shift key down to make it a perfect circle as opposed to an oval. Now to move a shape, all you have to do is when you click on it, make sure when it becomes that four-way directional arrow, you can click and drag to move your shape. You can also, with your shape, like you can with pictures, send backward, send forward. Remember, sometimes you need to try a bunch of different ones to make sure it does what you ask it to do. Or maybe click on the shape behind it to bring that forward. Okay. You can also resize your shapes by the handles. In this case, you can use your side handles depending on the shape you want. But if you have a perfect square or perfect circle, you don't want to use the side or top bottoms or what we call the square handles. You want to only use your circular handles if you want to keep your perfect circle or perfect square. You can also use a rotational handle to rotate a shape. You just click on the green rotational handle, and when it becomes the arrow that curves around, you can click and drag your shape around. Now if you want to insert a text box, it's the shape under basic shapes that has a little A in it. So a text box is what will allow you to just put text in. Notice it's the only one that has the cursor blinking. So if you were to say, type any sort of sentence, you can adjust lots of different things about your shape and the text within the shape. You can still go to your Home tab, change your color. You can change your font style. Notice how it now goes off your text box because the text is too large to fit within your text box. So you can increase the size of your text box when it becomes a double-sided arrow. The text will adjust to the new size of your text box. You can highlight, you can change your alignment just as with any other text, to center or right. Generally you would either use left or center with this kind. You can highlight any color you'd like. You can apply your other font styles like bold, italicize, underline, but make sure that before you do, you've got to select your text. Remember, we know that a command is in use when it turns orange. And then, of course, you can grow your font or shrink your font, depending on the size of your text box and what works the best. Now, if we select one of our shapes that we drew, we can format our shapes by clicking either in the shape styles, and with many preset designs that you can use. Notice this has a nice gradient, meaning it goes from a lighter to darker shade. We can choose one that has sort of a bevel effect or a shadowed effect, or we can set the effects ourselves. You can change your shape fill color. You can choose one of the colors from the list, or you can choose more fill colors and choose a different color. It's better to use the standard colors. Your text would automatically change. You can also change the outline. Notice that it's still blue there, but if you wanted something that maybe stood out more, you could do a purple. And you can change your shape weight. That's the thickness of the line, so that it becomes thicker. You could also change your shape fill to a more gradient in different variations. If you're going to add text to this, you don't want to use gradient. It doesn't work very well. You could use a shapefill that is a texture. Again, if you're going to use text in these, it's generally not a good idea to use textures, because text is often difficult to see with a texture. Okay. We could even change our outline to dashes if we wanted to have it be a dash instead of a solid line. You can still also apply your shape effects just as you could to your clip art. We could do a reflection, you could do bevel, you could do your 3D rotations depending on the purpose of your text and your box, your shape. You could add your glow. There's many different ones that you could use. Now, if you selected one of your shapes and press the delete key on the keyboard, that would automatically get rid of your shape. If you position your mouse on the outside of the canvas, notice that it becomes a directional arrow. If I clicked on it, I could click and drag this to move its position. I could also, if I click on it to select it, when it becomes the white arrow, it should select everything. And I can press the delete key to delete the entire canvas. Of course, if I made a mistake, I could certainly do that again. Now, from here, you're going to draw a diamond. Remember, insert shapes. Find the diamond shape. It's under there. You're going to click and drag. Notice we have our handles, and you're going to change your shape fill to a yellow. And you're going to apply a bevel effect. Then you're going to draw a lightning bolt. Again, insert, shapes, and you can do this on a canvas so that you have it all together. And then change it to any shape style you want. Remember, you can click your drop down arrow and other theme fills, and then add a reflection to that. Shape effects, reflections. Then you're going to insert a triangle. Change the weight of your outline to 6 points. Notice how thick that is. And then apply a glow effect. Remember, you often want to use an opposite or contrasting color to make it stand out more. Then draw a cloud. Fill the cloud with a texture. So shape fill, texture. And then add a shadow from Shape Effects. And it's as easy